All of my friends died. Every one of them. No, I'm the one who died. It's true. They're alive. Then you want to know why they didn't return, don't you? I don't want to tell you the story. It would only convince you that I really am insane.
Everything is ready, my darling. Do not be afraid. Soon we'll be together again.
Hello and welcome to Hello, This is the Doom Show. I am Richard. I am joined in the Doomed Moviethon studio by Tyler of Apologize to the Podcast. Hello, Tyler.
Hello, Richard. It's a very spacious studio in here.
I know, it's stateswide.
Uh-huh. Y'all should be jealous.
Tell us about Apologize to the Podcast.
Well, Apologize to the Podcast is just, well, I mean, it's fairly generic, really. Me and one of my friends, AJ, we've been best friends since high school, and I've pretty much dragged him through every movie obsession I've had. And I finally convinced him through sheer force of will that we need to start a podcast. So we just started doing a podcast where we kind of just pick movies that we both like and go off on tangents about them. And really, the title it was AJ's idea. We're both huge Chow Yun-Fat fans. So we were watching A Better Tomorrow too. And there's the infamous scene where Chow Yun-Fat's being not interrogated, but he's being pushed around by the mob, and they throw his rice on the ground, and he pulls a gun out and makes them apologize to their rights. So we use the sound clip at the beginning of the show, and we're like, you know what? That's going to be the name, Apologize to the Podcast.
I love it. That is such a great name for a podcast.
Well, thank you, because originally I was like, I don't know, but AJ was very solid about it. It was his idea. So the podcast is my baby. The title was his baby.
Nice.
And they're stepbrothers now.
So many babies.
So many babies. We should have called it Almighty Baby, but that's already another movie. So it's interesting. We don't really have any theme. We don't just focus on horror or action. We just kind of pick a little bit of everything, you know.
Oh yeah, I like the anime episodes.
Yes, those are the most enjoyable to watch, but they're the most difficult to actually talk about because there's some wacky shit that goes on, especially Ultimate Teacher.
Oh my god.
That one almost destroyed me. Maybe one day in the future we'll show our Lost episode, which is about Legend of the Overfiend.
Oh my god.
You told me about that.
Yeah, it's been completed. I have it. I'm just too scared to release it on the unexpected public.
Episode 0.
Get out of here. 000. Legend of the Overfiend.
Could be your farewell episode.
Yes. Before I go to death row
I'm retiring.
Here you go. Here's Legend of Overfiend. Screw you guys.
No, you know what? Make up a whole story about how people were like begging for you to release it.
If only that would happen.
The movie we are going to talk about tonight is one of my favorite oddball, what the hell is this movies. It is Matango from 1963, directed by Ishiro Honda. I'm going to play the trailer. I found a wonderful English trailer for this very Japanese film. So here we go.
Seven young people shipwrecked on a mysterious island. The island was deserted. Not even birds or animals dared to come here. What did they find?
Hey! Hey!
Seaweed, fish, and turtle's eggs. Anything we can eat, as well as snakes and lizards.
Just let me finish. There's a lot of grass growing around here. You can eat the roots. You can eat the roots of a lot of plants here. Never thought of that, did you?
They were driven to the edge of starvation. Food was scarce, and they were forbidden to eat the mushrooms that grew on the island. Fear and hunger turned them against each other.
I'll kill you.
Matango will help me live.
I haven't been hungry since I left the ship.
Mamie. Oh, help me. Help me.
Please. Can't we eat the mushrooms now?
That would really be the end of us.
Akiko! We're out! Oh, look out!
Matango, the horrible mushrooms. Matango, the vegetable monster. Can they escape the dreaded Matango? You'll find out when you see Matango!
Tyler, what is the Italian title for this movie?
The Italian title is The Fungus of Terror.
Oh my god.
Or Curse of the Mushroom People.
Oh man, that should have been the sequel. Why didn't they save Curse for the sequel?
I'm surprised this didn't become a franchise. It's got a really good premise once we get to it. I think it really this could have been a horror series like Ringu or Ju-on. It really could have had potential, you know?
So yeah, this was released on August 11th, 1963 in Japan. Apparently picked up by American International Pictures and released sometime in 1965 and also played on TV.
Mm-hmm. Under the title of Attack of the Mushroom People.
Yes. And the crew behind this is Godzilla.
Yeah, Ishiro Honda, who directed the movie, was pretty much known for making Godzilla movies. Of course, he's done other stuff. I mean, he made war dramas before the first Godzilla film, Farewell Yarbon, which really kind of stinks because none of those films are really readily available in the States.
No, they're not. Sucks.
Have fun buying overpriced Japanese DVDs of these movies with no subtitles. Actually, you want me to pull up the IMDb page?
Go for it. I was going to mention 3 of his films that I think folks need to check out in relation to this one.
Okay.
I was going to recommend The H-Man.
Very solid.
I really like The H-Man. I also like Dogora.
That's one I haven't seen, actually.
That's the one with, it's a diamond heist movie with monsters coming out of the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that is so weird, almost as weird as the movie we're going to talk about tonight, Frankenstein Conquers the World.
Yes.
What?
You know, that is probably one of the most interesting Toho monster movies. Matango was also a Toho movie, but that one is probably the most bizarre take on Frankenstein that I've ever seen.
Frankenstein is a giant caveman fighting a giant squid.
Yes, and a random squid, because apparently that was necessary.
God, that movie's so great. That's one of those DVDs that I just look at on my shelf, and I'm like, I am so glad I doggedly pursued a used copy of that. I love that.
Oh, definitely. That and... Luckily, the sequel, War of the Gargantuans, is readily available.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I have not seen that yet.
Oh, it's really good. And it's surprisingly deep and dark for a giant monster movie, because they're smaller than Godzilla, so they can run around and actually eat people.
Oh,
I was not expecting that.
Oh man, now I'm really excited about that.
It is really solid. It's someone said it's like I forget who the critic was, but they're like, it's like Cain and Abel, but with cannibal monsters. I'm like, okay, that works.
Nice. Why don't we come back to Ishiro Honda and the rest of the crew, because there's some pretty cool people in this and who are behind this. So we'll come back. Let's jump into this plot.
Okay.
I watched the English dub because I am now addicted to English dubbing.
Mm-hmm.
I especially like Italian English dubbing, of course. The way those films are dubbed is just brilliant. When you watch Asian films that are dubbed in English, especially in the 50s and 60s, oh, you're in for some trouble.
Oh, yeah. Most racist accents that you can find.
Oh, it's crazy because sometimes they're actual like Japanese people who just have terrible English accents. So, man, the H-Man has a particularly ridiculous English dub.
Another thing with the dubbing is, I mean, of course, there's a stereotype of bad dubbing because of martial arts movies, but these ones are most of them are pretty sound, but it really depends on which dub. I'm actually really curious. On the DVD, I watched. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I watched the Japanese version, so I don't really know what the dub is like.
I'll be pulling clips from it for our discussion's sake, because there's some really bizarre stuff, but also there's some decent performances hidden in there.
Because I know, and this might be useless trivia, but I know for a lot of the Toho movies, they had two different dubs. They had one that was made by Titra Studios, which is a company based in, I think, New York. And they did a lot of dubbing for a lot of Japanese properties like Ultraman and Speed Racer. And they're fairly good. They fairly match lip movements. They really sink in. And if you weren't aware that they were English dubbed, you would probably be fooled because they're usually really good.
Nice.
And then there's a company, I forget the name of it, but it's in Hong Kong. And they actually have people whose first language isn't English dubbing these movies.
Yeah.
And those are usually the more bizarre ones where they'll have really weird like line delivery like, kiss you guys. Like if you watch Godzilla vs. Biollante, there's a evil terrorist who throws out one-liners like kiss you guys.
Man, you're just throwing so many movies at me I want to watch when we get done tonight. Like that.
Yeah, you need to have a kaiju-thon. That
you.
needs to be the next book. Doomed kaiju-thon.
Holy shit, I don't know if I'm ready.
Doomed Tokyo. There you go.
They probably wouldn't like that. They're like, could you call it something else, bruh?
Okay, Doomed Osaka.
They're like, thank you. This opens with some nice cryptic talking from our main character, who is Kenji. And according to the credits, he's a professor. He's played by Akira Kubo, and he's in a hotel room, or that's what it sort of looks like. We're not sure where he is exactly, but he's very cryptically talking about how his friends are dead and how you, the viewer, or the listener, whoever he's talking to, is very concerned about where his friends are. And I actually am going to open up the show with that very monologue, because I really love that. It's just instantly grabs your attention. Before jumping into some jaunty, fun music.
Yes. Kind of this misconception with this movie where it's kind of looped in with all these other kaiju films, where it's kind of, usually the 60s Godzilla movies got progressively more kid-friendly and goofy.
Yeah.
But the thing that strikes me about Matango is, I mean, from the get-go, it is a very suspenseful, very moody, full of dread horror movie. And that's what's really surprising about it. And of course, it completely throws you through the loop, because then it starts playing this wacky banjo music on the 7 Seas.
So great. The credits are really cool. They have we're watching a boat with a schooner or a sailboat, yacht, a frigate. No, I don't know.
A frigate.
It's a ship that is going through the ocean, and it's a sailboat. So of course they have all these sails popping up on the screen that are very fake, that look like clip art from paintings, and they're throwing the credits up on these sails. It's really, really strange way to start the movie.
It's very avant-garde, to say the least.
I love it. And we are barely into introducing the characters when someone starts singing.
Yep, good old Kumi Mizuno is it Miss Mommy? Mammy?
I'm going to call her Mommy for this.
Mommy, okay.
Just because I need to call my mommy.
You need to call Miss... Hey, I would call my mommy too if it was Kumi Mizuno.
Yes! Kumi Mizuno.
Yeah, Kumi Mizuno, which is probably the most... she's been in a bunch of Godzilla movies, including Godzilla Final Wars, where she plays one of the prime ministers.
Oh, I love it.
Yes, and it's kind of a weird It's not a reunion because it hadn't been made yet, but her and Akira Kubo, who plays the hero, they were both in. They play they don't play a couple, but they play like competitors in Monster Zero, which came out in 1965, a couple years later.
Nice.
And she's really good as the alien robot in that movie.
This crew of people here, we have a variety of upper class dickheads and kind of a lower class people. It's a nice mix, but they're all escaping from terrible Tokyo.
Yeah, silly Tokyo.
Well, it's like modern life has just got these kids down, so they're going to go and get horribly killed.
On this island. Foreshadowing.
Dun, dun, dun.
I guess before we start introducing the rest of their names, you're probably better at pronouncing Japanese names than I am, so I'll kind of let you handle most of the names. I'll probably butcher them.
Let's agree to be really insensitive and pronounce them badly on purpose.
I can do that, definitely.
Like Aishiro Hondo? No.
He was in Beauty Shop, didn't you know that?
Yes, we'll do the best we can. We get to meet some other characters here, like Hiroshi Tachikawa. He plays Etsuro, the writer, and he just can't stop working. And in a scene that makes me really uneasy, he loses a bunch of his manuscript in the ocean because mommy is like messing with him. And I'm like, I would throw her overboard so she could grab the pages. Then we'll swing the sailboat back around and get her.
Yeah. He doesn't have all the spare paper on that boat to write another manuscript.
It's so funny. You know you write when you get, like, agitated by a scene like that.
Yes. That's actually what I wrote in my notes. I wrote, poor Kumi Mizuno. She's so sexy she loses manuscripts.
Exactly. We have a love interest here for Mr. Kenji. He has Miki Yashiro, and she plays Akiko. She's a student. And this is the only actress that wasn't in 100 other things. She was one of the few that's like, yeah, acting's not for me. Everyone else is like, you were only in like 9 things? I was in 120 movies?
Well, I mean, Toho was definitely a movie factory in the 60s, God, yes. And the fact that she's not in many of the movies is actually fairly surprising.
Yeah, everyone else is so prolific that she stands out for not being prolific. The jaunty music was not proper foreshadowing because, of course, a huge storm rolls in, and they're overtaken. The owner of the boat, I believe, is Masafumi. And he's played by Yoshio Tsuchiya.
Yeah, Tsuchiya.
He really wants to escape Tokyo, and I can't really figure out why. It's not really clear in the dub. He's wealthy. He owns the boat, which is very impressive to Mommy. She's really into him because of his money.
Which pays off later on in the movie, foreshadowing. But to kind of go on a little aside here, he always plays eccentric characters when he's doing the Godzilla movies. I mean, in the Japanese version, they don't really explain really why he wants to escape Tokyo other than just getting away from it all. But he usually always plays very eccentric, crazy people. So it's probably just fitting with his character. They're just like, okay, we'll write a character just for you to be the crazy boat owner.
We should turn back.
That's not up to me.
You know, Skipper, they're strange people.
They got more money than brains.
They're more like reckless children.
They'll be children no matter how old they get. A bunch of parasites sponging off people. But that happens to be the way of the world.
They do survive the storm, but the sails are completely ruined, and so they're stranded at sea. They have limited water, limited food. They're able to listen to a radio that has an announcement about their missing boat. And it's funny because if you're having trouble keeping the characters sorted out, the radio will actually really explain who everyone is and what their jobs are in the real world. It's pretty funny. I don't know if it's the first night or a couple nights later, but one of the dudes is out on the deck at night and he starts to see a ship heading towards them. And of course, it's really heading towards them. The ship is barreling towards their little yacht it turns out to be either a dream or a ghost ship, which I love ghost ships in movies. Like, this kind of thing is so haunting to me. Like,
oh, yes.
This could be your first little Lovecraftian kind of stuff here.
Oh, yeah, especially with when you actually see some of the creatures. I would say it's kind of a premonition for things to come, but the actual ghost ship in this movie is probably one of the most impressive ones I've seen in any ghost movie. Sorry, ghost ship.
Oh no.
This is a very impressive boat. And it's just so dingy and gross, and it looks like there's just layers of filth coated on everywhere, even inside the boat.
Yeah.
It's very haunting, especially with all the, the moody music and the fog, and just how crappy the island actually looks when you see it.
Yeah. The director, Ishiro Honda, like, he really knows how to ratchet up the tension, and really, these kinds of scenes he does are, man, I can't even. I mean, the movie could be over right here. I'd be fine. It was so good. So good.
Oh yeah, the rest of the movie could just be them stuck in the ghost ship.
Oh yeah,
and and there's something similar like that happens in The H-Man. But I'd say that I really got this is one of the few early '60s horror films that gave me the sense of dread, like John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh yeah,
because it is just so cramped and claustrophobic, and it's always raining and musty in there. You could smell how filthy that boat was.
Before things can get too catty on the boat, they find land. I'll play a little clip of some arguments that are on the boat when people are getting real snotty with each other.
When is this fog gonna break up, eh? Hey, how much water's left?
Oh, shut up. You wear yourself out gabbing.
My head feels funny. What's gonna happen to me?
I forget who it is, but one of the dudes, either the skipper or the sailor man, either one of them has designs on Mommy.
Yeah, Sinzu, played by Kenji Sahara, who's the sailor.
Yes.
With his giant black sunglasses that he wears throughout every scene.
So cool. It's like Bruce Lee and shit.
Mm-hmm. He might be actually a Yakuza sailor. We don't know.
Oh.
See, plot twist.
Damn. Yeah, I'll play the clip where he says,
"No wonder a woman's taboo on a ship. It's certainly not because the gods became jealous of them. It's really because all the men on the ship start to lose their heads."
It's amazing. So they get to an island, and they immediately start searching for food and water, and they find an amazing ship crashed on the other side of the island. And we'll also find out that this whole stretch of water right here, this little grouping of islands, is a ship graveyard. There's so many wrecks in the water. They find a ship, and it's a deserted wreck. They determine that it's some kind of scientific vessel, but it's very mysterious because it's been intentionally disguised, so you can't tell what country it's from.
Mm-hmm.
And this mystery ship, the crew was studying radiation. So there's a nice little science laboratory with some...
lots of test tubes.
Eyeless turtle or an eyeless fish or something.
And weird little concoctions in some of the test tubes. And that's where they find the... It's right in this scene where they find the fungus, or the notes about the fungus.
Yeah, there's a box that's actually marked Matango. Mm-hmm. And they open it up and there's a giant, very disgusting looking mushroom inside.
Oh, very gnarly looking mushroom.
Yeah.
It looks like a giant mushroom, huh?
Matango. A kind of mushroom. It's probably a new species that was found on this island.
We're in luck if this thing is edible.
They notice that all the mirrors have been removed, and they also find the captain's cabin, which looks like a health hazard.
Yeah, I wouldn't walk in there.
Oh, no, I wouldn't go near the ship, much less the captain's cabin.
I would have not even gone on the journey to begin with. I'd just stay in Tokyo.
No sailing, thank you. Everything's covered in mold. Everything is really disgusting looking. The room is in this red glow. It's really cool. They find the captain's log, which I almost giggled when I said log.
Yep.
And then
they find to say it like William Shatner. Captain's log, Stargate.
Exactly. Did you say Stargate?
Oh, oops. Yeah, Stargate. Stardate. Oops.
What a great series that turned out to be. Anyway. So
get back to the movie.
They find the magical gun, which is actually someone in the IMDb comments said, "What's with that magical gun?"
Yeah, you get some interesting reviews. And it seems like they never run out of ammunition for that rifle.
Oh no, and the gun can fire in like almost like a machine gun. Not quite, but it's a little more than semi-automatic at some points. It's really funny. It's just it just looks like a rifle that, maybe could hold like 7 or 8 shots at most, but
20 shots later we discovered it's not.
Exactly. So they start reading the logbook, and it's true that they were there studying radiation. They say they were sending men out to scrounge for food, and they never returned. And I think it actually warns in the log not to eat the mushrooms.
Yeah, it says, you're not supposed to eat Matango.
Okay. So there's no food, no easily available food on the island, but there's mushrooms everywhere. Mm-hmm. But I think it's Kenji who warns everybody not to eat them until they can identify them.
And it's later on, but I think he kind of hints that he's worried about them having psychedelic abilities with these mushrooms.
Nice.
I know later on that they go into a full speech about it, but they kind of hint at it now that you need to be careful because it'll cause you to start tripping.
Oh,
we don't need that.
No. They find fresh water, so they are able to at least survive this thing, and they're going to have the writer Itsuro. He's going to be manning the smoke signal.
Uh-huh.
So that somebody will find them, because they're assuming that there's planes out there who are looking for them, or ships. And while he's manning the fire, we have a flashback to Tokyo.
Yes.
To a nightclub scene where everyone's meeting up to discuss this journey, and everyone gets their special necklace. They all have matching necklaces.
Mm-hmm. It's a very nice club.
It's such a great way to break up all the Lost on the Desert Island stuff.
Oh, yeah. And it's a very vibrant scene, too, because everything's very drab on the island, and you go here and everything's candy-colored, and it's...
Totally. It keeps the movie more dynamic, and I like when things are told out of order, so we're having a flashback in a flashback. I love it.
Oh, yeah. And it's very interesting, because it seems like they had a very happy life, so it makes you wonder why they were going on this journey to begin with. So
that's life in the big city, kid.
Yeah.
How can you write all the time?
I'm certainly glad that I don't have to work that hard. I hire people to think for me, and then I just use their thoughts. Now that takes talent.
There's nothing wrong with borrowing talent. It takes ability, as well as intelligence.
That's right. That's how civilization progresses. By borrowing, each generation takes an idea and improves on it. Novelists do the same thing, don't they?
Yeah.
They find the broken mirrors, and while right around the same time, they notice that birds are avoiding the island.
Yes, I wanted to say that is the most impressive animated bird I have seen in one of these movies.
It is such a painting of a bird.
It kind of took me out of the movie for a second, but it's very ominous because they're starting to notice that there's not really a lot of animal life on the island, and they do point out that the bird is purposely avoiding the island.
Yeah.
They can't even shoot the bird to kill it because it's too far away for them to hunt it.
It looked delicious.
Oh yeah, it looked like one of the birds from not that bad, but it looked like one of the good feathers from Animaniacs.
Oh, jeez. Man, I hated them.
You cooing my bird?
I'm sorry, but a parody of Goodfellas for kids? No, it's stupid. God, it's so dumb.
It was definitely the least important part of Animaniacs.
Mm-hmm.
The animals are avoiding the island, and they haven't really found anything of life on the island except for the vegetation.
Yeah. While they're exploring, they find the mushroom patch. The Matango patch, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And while they're scoping it out, they see something huge moving in the distance that's obscured by all the mushrooms and by the trees. It's kind of mushroom-like, this giant thing.
You could say it's a monster almost.
Oh. I think it's Masafumi who shoots it.
Yeah, Mamsumi's coming through because he's the one who's holding the rifle. and it's Mammy and
Akiko.
Akiko. Yeah, they're gathering food because, of course, since this was taking place in the 60s, the women have to go looking for food while everyone else is salvaging the yacht.
Mm-hmm. This is not the feminist movie.
Yeah, this would make very many feminists angry with a depiction of women in this movie. But yeah, Mafasumi comes through and starts shooting at the mushroom person or creature, and it mysteriously disappears. They don't actually show how it disappears. It just kind of flash forwards to Mami and Akito waking up from their experience.
It's really cool. Just the layers and layers of dread and the layers of, like, this movie's taking its time and just slowly freaking you out. That's really cool.
Oh, yeah. It really plays with the paranoia. These characters are slowly starting to snap at this point.
So they're going to stay on the ship, which I think is a great idea, on this abandoned vessel, since I guess it's, larger and more fungus-infested than their own. And they are visited by a very strange-looking person who peeks in. There's someone's moving around about the boat. I forgot to mention, they did find a box of unfinished food on the boat. They were talking about how there's no way there's going to be any food on the boat. Why are you even looking? And they find a bunch of cans of Spam or cans of fish or something.
Mm-hmm. So hope is not completely lost for them.
Yeah. So if they can keep working and keep searching the island, maybe they'll be able to survive. But there's this really freaky-looking zombie-like guy with a very mottled, weird-looking face just creeping around and peeping in the windows at people.
Mm-hmm. Bizarre little bumps on him, and you can tell there's something strange growing on him and fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
That evil mold.
One dude is trying to steal some food, and he actually sees this creature and gets freaked out, and he wakes everybody up, and they shoot at this guy, but he's gone.
Yeah, of course, not very subtle about shooting him. He just launches the whole clip into the door.
That gun is so great. Things start getting ugly. People are really getting scared and really getting catty with each other and almost starting to get violent with each other over the food situation. People just suck, Tyler.
Yeah, especially when you're trapped on Gilligan's Island, Japanese style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's no fat captain in this one.
No.
Yeah, like I was going to say, the writer, he pulls a knife on one of them during their confrontation, and it starts getting violent.
The theme of civilized people getting away and showing their true colors once the chips are down is so obvious you'd have to not watch the movie to miss it.
Oh, yeah.
Then again, even people who didn't watch the movie probably got it.
You can see it a mile away. And it's one of those things where they're slowly becoming more savage. They're getting very desperate to start eating the mushrooms.
Oh yeah, there's some great dialogue about that. It says, someone says Mexicans eat mushrooms to get a sense of well-being.
Yeah.
And Japanese people who ate mushrooms would dance in the mountains.
And there's mountains nearby, so they want to start dancing.
I'm telling you, that would definitely take my mind off food.
Hunger pains, definitely.
I read in a book a long time ago that the Mexicans used to eat them in order to enhance their perception and get a sense of well-being. Japanese legends mention laughing mushrooms, so I'm in good company. The people who went out to gather the mushrooms danced in high spirits in the mountains and were in touch with the infinite.
After our little episode with the writer pulling a knife on everyone, Kenji Sahara's character, Shinzo, who's a sailor, he actually starts finding turtle eggs on the beach, but he starts hoarding them. And he actually, in one really revulsive scene, I guess it's not really, repulsive in Japan, but he actually bends down and bites up one of the eggs and starts drinking the yolk and starts hoarding the food and hiding the food in the forest.
What a dick.
Yeah, and there's this movie really has some really dynamic camera work. There's one scene where he's hiding his food and there's a handheld camera following him.
Oh, yeah.
And it starts slowly showing him more and more of the paranoia. And Mammy, her character is slowly becoming unhinged because she's talking about, well, we can't trust any of them. We need to lock ourselves up in our room.
Well, the threat of rape is there.
Yeah.
And the one guy was really getting worked up over the presence of women being around. So go ahead and lock it up,
Yeah, get out of there now. But you can see that the crew is slowly going crazy, and you can't tell if the weird surroundings going on, if it's all a figment of their imagination from starvation, or if it's slowly, or there really is things there, and they're just becoming so paranoid that they're really becoming inept to it.
Oh man, I love it.
In Tokyo, you're all big shots and think you're pretty smart. But here you go crazy. You start seeing ghosts. You think the ship is haunted. But there's a reason for all this. I know what it is. It's these women. They're on your mind all the time, but you can't do anything about it. That's what's wrong with everybody, isn't it? Gets me too. It's really bugging me. Tonight, I might decide to take her.
Are you going to let him get away with that?
Do you want to get all the way to the ending, or you want to cut off at some point and leave up the rest?
No, I say we go ahead and ride this bad boy out. Let's go ahead and spoil it.
Oh, totally.
Of course, someone decides to be a shithead. I mean, we've all been shitheads this whole movie.
A real shithead, though.
The rich guy, Richie Rich, steals his own boat.
Uh-huh.
And he takes all the food and decides to make a go of it on his own since, what a sweetheart.
And just as time as people are getting more and more desperate for food.
Yes. They notice that it's just been raining and raining and raining and raining. And the mushrooms are loving this. The mushrooms are growing. And of course, they're laughing.
They're spreading like wildfire, and there's actually some fungus starting to grow in the boat, like really rapidly.
God, it's so tense. It's just, man, I love this part.
Yeah, we needed another musical break. We do get a flashback, but we didn't have a la 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 la.
Yeah, I know. It's like sing to make us happy.
Yeah, I guess Mammy forgot that she had that ability to start singing. She was too worried that someone was going to do something to her.
Too hungry, too scared of rape.
Too scared of rape.
Who eats the mushrooms first?
That's a good question. I'm the writer Inso. I'm pretty sure he's the first one to start eating the mushrooms because he starts getting really crazy, and he walks in because there's a scene where Akira Kubo and some of the other characters have been gathering food, and they find some potatoes, and they bring in the food, and they found all these potatoes and seaweed, and he comes in, he's like, oh, well, don't worry about my portion. They're like, oh, well, you're a jerk. We don't want to give you any food. And I'm paraphrasing the dialogue, by the way.
Of course.
They didn't actually say, oh, you're a jerk, starve. But they're gathering all the food, and he walks in, and he's just like, well, I'm full. Like, did you eat the Matango? And he's like, oh, well, yes, I ate a big serving of it. And he's got this glassy eye look in his face. Nice. And he's starting to look more and more deranged.
Yes. Somebody has a hallucination of dancing girls and colored lights when they eat them. Is that him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's another little break in the island setting. It's just a great little sequence there.
And then I know that the owner of the boat starts having hallucinations.
Hey.
He starts hallucinating himself later on when he's seduced by the mushrooms. Yes, that's what I said.
So the rich guy, he didn't take the boat. The skipper stole the boat.
Yes, the skipper stole the boat.
Okay, God, man, it's so funny. It's so clearly laid out from IMDb and from the movie. Is not that hard to follow, but I'm still getting lost with these characters.
Well, it's because really I didn't even start picking up. I've seen this movie probably 3 or 4 times, and I didn't start picking up until the viewing I watched for the episode tonight. Because you get so stuck in the dread and the mood.
Yeah, and everyone's being such a dick. Like only Kenji and Akiko seem to be the innocents.
Mm-hmm. And she's starting to cracking at this point.
She is freaking out.
She's just like, well, let's eat some of the mushrooms. Apparently, they taste really good and make you feel good.
Mommy gets someone to eat some mushrooms with her, and then she says, "Oh, I didn't tell you. Once you eat a mushroom, you'll turn into one."
Yes. Actually,
thanks, asshole.
You asshole. That's when she's talking to the owner. But before this, there's actually a sequence where the writer who had stolen the rifle, he's trying to get off the boat, and there's a big confrontation with him. And Kumi Mizuno's character, Mommy, she has already ate some of the mushrooms, so now she's went from starving and dirty to just luscious and gorgeous.
Oh, it's so good.
She almost turns into a female vampire, except it's, mushroom person. But it's kind of built like a Hammer movie where she just becomes really gorgeous,
Yeah, that's one of the things I really like about this is her looking like she just stepped out of the salon.
Those mushrooms, I'm telling you, they have healing properties, kind of.
I didn't tell you that once you've eaten it, you become a mushroom too. That was why all the men took the mirrors off the ship, you see? And once you start, you can't stop.
Yoshida!
We finally get the mushroom monsters showing up.
Yes.
It gets very, very strange. I mean, there's just penises everywhere.
Well, it's Japan. I mean,
they love dicks, and there's so many mushrooms that it's just phallic everywhere. But what do you think of these monsters, dude?
I think they're, not to get into too much behind the scenes stuff, but I think they're one of the most interesting monsters that A.G. Tsuburaya ever made. He did the special effects on the movie, and it's very different than anything they did for the Godzilla series. They're very bizarre, obtuse-looking monsters. But, I love the whole sequence. I mean, they don't actually talk except for, like, a grr noise. But just whenever it starts raining, they're kind of laughing and giggling, and it's just so cute it can kill you.
Yeah. Well, the Matango, these creatures would show up in a bunch of video games, in like role-playing games where you're fighting a bunch of monsters. Matango would pop up a bunch, and it's in the IMDb trivia too. I can't remember which games exactly, but there's always a Matango, a giant Matango you have to fight somewhere.
Oh yeah, they're very popular, and it's very bizarre that they were only in the one movie. It's very odd. I will say that the creatures themselves, I mean, they are very unique. They're very bulbous, and they have yes, bulbous. They're very creepy, and they can pop out of anywhere, and it seems like they multiply. And there's implied cannibalism because the actual Matango victims, once they become seduced by the mushrooms and they eat the mushrooms, they actually start peeling mushrooms off themselves.
Oh, man, that's so good.
There's that iconic shot of Kumi Mizuno where she's kind of giggling while eating the mushrooms, going, "Oh, it's so good." And she's also peeling them off her skin, and she's growing them.
God, it's so great. I wrote in my notes, then shit gets really weird.
Yeah, the last, 20 minutes of this movie is just an onslaught, because it gets to the point where either people have died off or they've been seduced by the mushrooms, and there's just Akiko and Kenji left.
Yep.
And they've kind of taken refuge in the boat.
Mm-hmm. Kenji sees that the yacht has returned, so he goes to swim out to it and see how the skipper's doing. And he finds a suicide note written on the wall that the skipper ran out of food and just apparently jumped off the boat or something.
He is now fish food.
Exactly. After this scene, there's a siege scene, which is amazing.
Yes, this movie jumps up fairly fast from the slow beat.
Totally a Night of the Living Dead, Attack of the Creatures. There's a great scene where one of the mushroom people gets his arm broken off while trying to break in. And, it's just, the gun is firing in rapid succession. And
yeah, this is where they realize that they will never run out of ammo for this rifle, just like in a John Woo movie.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he's stuck there, and he has to drag Akiko around because, yet again, this isn't a very feminist-happy movie.
Yeah. The system is bad, man. It's the system that brought her down.
She couldn't handle it. She was just a lonely student who was in love with her professor. Which is kind of that's yet another very...
I never even thought of that.
It's very strange how that plays out, too, because it's kind of a very Japanese idea. We kind of frown upon it here, but maybe they frown upon it in Japan, too. But it seems very natural that the professor and the student are, this close together.
Yep.
To go on a boat trip with each other.
Sure.
Maybe she needed extra credit.
And they make a joke at the beginning how she's a virgin and she won't even kiss him. It's like, well, how old is she supposed to be?
She doesn't look that old, but maybe she's just, I don't know, very naive looking and
Youthful.
looks younger. But yeah, they're stuck in the boat. They're trying to get out, and they finally get to the forest, which is bad because he gets separated from Akio.
Yes, very bad. She's taken, and oh man, it's just. I feel like we're dealing with a masterpiece here.
Oh yes,
and I mean, this movie is just so much better than it has any right to be, and it's funny that, like you're saying, there was no sequel to this. And there was no pursuit of a franchise of any kind. But then again, this is so damn strange.
Oh yeah.
You know?
I hate to say one trick pony, but I mean, it is a very unusual movie that for a monster movie like this, it is filled with so much paranoia, and the performances are really good. It's not a standard B movie because when Akigo is separated from Kinji, Mami, played by Kumi Mizuno, actually kind of seduces our lovely little student into eating one of the mushrooms. So when Kinji bumps back into her, she's already ate one of the mushrooms, and she already has this look of ecstasy on her face.
Yeah.
And he suddenly realizes that he has been left on the island by himself, surrounded by all these creatures.
So yeah, it looks like he's about to get done in, and then we... for some reason, this part's always really hard for me to hold on to. Does he run to the boat, or does we just cut to his epilogue?
He's running towards the boat.
Okay.
And then it has like the shocking moments, and then it gets to where he's finishing off his story saying, well, I escaped, and all my friends are dead, and I wish I would have stayed behind.
The final stinger of the movie is, of course, as he's talking, we realize that he's being observed by a bunch of doctors. He's actually in a prison cell type of room, like in a hospital somewhere. He admits that he has eaten the mushrooms himself. That's how he survived.
And when it shows his face, he has like the tooth-face scar down his whole side of his face, which is covered in fungus boils. That's the only way I can describe them, but the fungus boils.
And he has this interesting lines about how, this could happen anywhere.
I hardly remember when I was rescued. However, I'm sorry now that I was. If I was really in love with her, I should have eaten the mushrooms with her and become one. At least we would have been together. But I came back, only to be condemned as insane. I had no choice. All that time, it suffered with hunger, and then I lost her. I was confused. I couldn't decide what to do. And then I ate them.
Here now. You should consider yourself fortunate that someone finally found you.
Do you think so? Tokyo's not very different from that island. People in cities are cruel, aren't they? It's all the same. I would be happier living on that island than in this city.
And in the Japanese version, he's very poignant about... I'm not sure if this was supposed to be social commentary or not, but it seems like it. But in the Japanese version, he's complaining about Japan, saying how it was actually better on the island. It was more harmonious there, and Tokyo is becoming a dangerous place, and the island was more suitable for him.
So is the radiation a throwaway moment to you, or is the radiation meant to be a bigger theme where, because of the nuclear waste or whatever that those sailors were studying, that's what caused all of this?
That's actually a really good point. I actually haven't really thought about that, but it could kind of work both ways.
Yeah, I feel like they wouldn't have mentioned it at all if it hadn't been at least, it's like a theme.
Yeah, which might go with the modernization, everyone becoming savages. Maybe this movie is very, very clever with its social commentary, but maybe I'm just a dumb viewer. But I'd say that, I think it has to do with the overall plot. It could go either two ways. Like, one, the radiation is shorthand because they already had a hit with Godzilla, and the horrors of nuclear radiation are always present. And because it might be an allegory for some of the, people who were scarred from radiation with the nuclear attacks that happened in Japan during World War II. because the mushroom people look like they've been scarred by radiation.
Exactly. That was one of the pieces of trivia from IMDb.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said that the film was almost banned because of the look of the people for that very reason. They looked like people who'd been in a nuclear attack. So
Really? That's really interesting, because I know there was another movie that Ishiro Honda did, which I don't know the Japanese title, but it was re-edited as Half Human here in the States. And they added random footage of John Carradine, because who doesn't want John Carradine in their movie?
exactly.
Dear God, he didn't make 400 movies by being picky with what he did.
No. He did it because he was super popular.
Or had a lot of debt or gambling problems.
Yes.
But in Half Human, that movie, the original Japanese version, is actually banned because it depicts this tribe of people in the mountains. And they're like mongoloid redneck people, kind of like something you'd see in Raw and Turn or Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, wow.
And they're really, and it's also implied that they had radiation poisoning, and that was deemed too offensive, so they banned it.
Oh, wow.
So I'm glad this one wasn't banned, because it's near impossible to find the original Japanese cut of Half Human.
Wow.
Because it never got a home video release. I think there's only a TV print that has a number code on it on the top.
Oh, man. Well, at least you can see something of it.
Yeah, I know it was available for a longest time on Daily Motion, but someone took it down before I got a chance to see it. But yeah, it could be a greater theme there, where it has a deeper subtext to it. Or it could be just very standard, like they brought radiation to the island and it made a new kind of mushroom that became a monster, or caused mutations in people, making them hallucinate that they saw monsters. So it could go both ways, really.
I like that, because I hadn't even thought of that this was all crazy hallucinations. Didn't even occur to me.
It could be that way. I thought it was that way too, because the first time you have a Matango attack, it's shot at and then it just disappears.
Yeah.
So it might have just been Kumi Mizuno's character of Mommy having kind of like an episode, and then she's awakened by the gunshot, and that's why they disappear.
Nice.
Going back to the ending scene, I really like how it starts off just like the beginning, but then it slowly pans out, and then you notice, oh, wait a minute, there's bars on the windows.
Yeah.
And then there's bars on the door, and oh, there's doctors watching him, and he might be crazy like Captain and Dr. Caligari.
And of course, the king of models, they're filming Tokyo from the window, and it's just this fake cityscape. It's so pretty, so cool.
Oh, it is gorgeous. I think it's one of their best model scenes. And anyone who says that they made cities out of cardboard, I guess they don't understand how beautiful the miniatures are in their movies, because that's a miniature, then that is one of the best damn miniatures I've ever seen.
That's part of the charm of monster movies, just the care that went into them.
Oh yeah, these were loving, really with anything Japanese, there's an extra level of care and craftsmanship that you just don't get in American cinema, you know?
The producer of this is Tomoyuki Tanaka, and man, I don't even know where to begin with his stuff. I just go to IMDb and look up his life's work, over 200 films, and just so many monster movies, so many action movies, so many huge, important things that Toho did.
He's, you still there?
I'm still here. Can you hear me? Uh-oh.
Hello?
Let me call you back. The writing credits, dude named Takeshi Kimura.
Okay.
He's a big, prolific guy, too. He also wrote H-Man, Rodan, and a bunch of other things.
He seems to have, there was two of the big screenwriters for Toho when it comes to their sci-fi films. There was Kimura, and then there was Shinichi Sekizawa, and he was the kind of the goofier one. He did Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, and and Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, and he was more about having fun, while Kiramura is more somber. If you watch Rodan, that movie is actually pretty depressing towards the end.
It totally is.
When when one of the Rodan's is spoiler alert when he's falling into the volcano and then the other one follows. Oh, so tragic.
Man, love it. This was actually based on a story by an author named William Hope Hodgson, or W.H. Hodgson, called The Voice in the Night.
I really want to check that story out. Does it say if it was a short story or?
I think it was a short story. I found on YouTube there's a show called Suspicion, and in 1958 they had an episode called Voice in the Night that was an adaptation of this story.
Oh, nice.
And the copy on YouTube is almost impossible to watch. It's so dark.
Yeah.
But it's there, and I was listening to it, and it very similar. Very, very similar. They didn't stray too far from the original story.
Okay.
It's very cool.
Is there still a mushroom monster in the story, or is it a different monster?
It's more like the people just go crazy from eating them. There's not really monsters.
Okay.
So Toho, they added that for their own.
Well, I'm glad they did, because those suit designs are great. They're bonkers, but they're actually still pretty scary. I wouldn't want one of those in my house.
Yeah, it's really good. I since the copy was so bad, I just listened to it. But I'll post a link if it's still up with this episode. People can check it out.
Oh, totally.
I don't have any other trivia. Do you have some trivia about this bad boy?
Well, I am an unapologetic Godzilla fanboy junkie. I love Japanese monster movies. Yeah. I've actually seen more than standard Japanese horror films. So really, this is a very interesting movie in the fact that, with the exception of some of their other kind of horror movies like The H-Man and Human Vapor, they typically did either sci-fi movies or more basic monster movies. And that's not a bad thing. It's just they're not very ambiguous. It's like there is a monster destroying a city, or there is a monster destroying a village. This one is very abstract in that way, and it's very unusual. Maybe if there was more early 50s and 60s Japanese horror movies available, maybe it wouldn't stand out so much. But to me, it's probably the most interesting of that Toho era, because it's all the creative team of Godzilla pretty much. Sekizawa is not there, and the soundtrack is not done by Akira Ifukube. It's done by, thank the Lord I have IMDb open, Sato Bukra?
Or Beku?
Sato Beku, which this has a very eerie soundtrack.
Yeah, so good.
But yeah, this movie has pretty much all the same staff as Godzilla. Most of the people in it are from Godzilla films. And in a weird way, I didn't really have this thought until I was getting ready for the episode. It's almost like Toho's Alien movie, because it's a small cast and they slowly get whittled down, except, they're killing each other instead of being killed by a monster.
Yeah.
Because it has a very dynamic cast where these were all, stars, Japanese stars. None of these were B actors, Akira Kubo, of course, would usually play the heroes in these movies. He's in Son of Godzilla and
nice.
Monster Zero, where he plays a nerdy guy, but he still looks like he could kick your ass, even though he's supposed to be a nerd with these giant these giant glasses. And of course, you have the ravishing Kumi Mizuno, who's one of my favorite actresses. I mean, she's in this. She's in Frankenstein Conquers the World. She's in War of the Gargantuans, where depending on which cut you watch, she's either the same character or a very similar character as the hello nurse.
Nice.
And then, of course, Kenji Sahara with his giant sunglasses. I mean, he was in a really good TV show that Eiji Tsuburaya did. Have you ever watched Ultra Q?
I know about it. I've never actually watched it.
It is really good. It is pretty much what if they did Godzilla and the Outer Limits together.
Oh, shit.
It is really good. And he's one of the main characters. He plays a reporter / pilot who kind of drives the plane around with the reporters. And he's usually a likable guy. And then in this, he's kind of rapey and weird. And he's got the giant Yakuza glasses. So I love Kenji Sahara. It's a very atmospheric and paranoid movie. I almost said paranoiac. Oops. That would be an interesting adaptation.
That'd be a good double feature too.
That would be a good double feature. But it's a very somber and disturbing movie, and it's so unlike anything else they did. I know a lot of people kind of laugh at the Godzilla movies, but if you sit them down, I think the only thing they could probably laugh at is maybe some of the music at the beginning.
Yeah, very like off-putting.
Yeah, but everything else about this is very solid. But it's weird because they never really did serious horror films like this, at least the ones I've seen. For trivia, I mean, I think probably if anyone thinks this is a bad movie, it's probably because of the TV title of Attack the Mushroom People.
Yeah.
It's a great film on every level. Everything really works. And even some of the off-putting stuff gels perfectly.
Right.
And what I didn't know until I was actually looking at the credits on IMDb is Haru Nakajima, who played Godzilla in the first Godzilla movie, or the first 10 or so Godzilla movies. He plays one of the Matango monsters. So that's really cool. So you get Godzilla in there too.
I love it.
So Richard, how did you first stumble across this movie?
I remember when, was this Media Blasters who put this DVD on?
You still there?
Oh, are you serious? Can you not hear me?
Hello?
Ah, fuck.
Whoops.
Okay, I think it was Media Blasters who put this out, and they were doing a bunch of stuff like this, and the Mysterians, Dogorad, a bunch of other Toho outsider, kind of non-Godzilla Toho movies, and my friend lent me Matango, and I did not want to give it back.
Oh, yeah.
And I foolishly didn't run out and buy it, and so when I really wanted to watch it again, I had to borrow it again from my friend because it was out of print. I made a copy of it, and my burned copy of this movie is very precious to me. Oh man, the Lovecraft vibe.
Oh yes,
because the writer of the story, the William Hope Hodgson, apparently he influenced Lovecraft.
Really?
He was just a few years earlier than Lovecraft's most prolific time. So.
Dang. Well, I seriously need to get off my butt and read that book then, or read the story.
Yeah, I went on Kindle and grabbed a bunch of his stuff because, of course, it's, from 1908 and all that stuff, so it's all free for the most part.
Okay.
And this survival horror, like someone on IMDb said this movie references Lord of the Flies, which I thought was funny.
Mm-hmm.
It might. It definitely has the same kind of elements. Those kinds of movies don't interest me normally.
Yeah.
Luckily, there's the zombie elements to it, and the vampire elements you mentioned. That was a really good call. I hadn't thought of that before.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, it's more of, I guess, an early vampire. These aren't the sparkling ones, folks. But I'm sorry, Team Edward. Anyway, but
I'm strictly Team Brad.
There you go, Team Brad, all the way.
Yeah,
you go, Brad. You better be listening. But yeah, I mean, it just it really struck me that I had recently rewatched Brides of Dracula, and I did an interview episode with Brad, and of course, he is such a genius when it comes to Hammer films. We were going on and on about Hammer movies, and He mentioned Brides of Dracula, and that was the first Hammer film I saw. And there's a scene where one of the I forget who the girl was, but the second girl who turns into a vampire, she's kind of homey and very virginal and kind of permissive and then when she's bit by a vampire, she becomes super assertive, super seductive, super sexy.
Nice.
And then when I saw Kumi Mizuno in this movie turn that way, I'm like, oh, okay, there's kind of like this vampire element where she's slowly, she's kind of turned early on, and you never know exactly when she's been turned into a Matango person.
Yeah.
And I just love that element where everyone's kind of put off by her because she's like, oh, wow, you cleaned up really nice. What's going on there?
The themes that are in this movie, the getting away from the big city to go back to nature, and of course, nature kicking city people's asses.
Yes, they're very naive. And, in a weird way, when you bring that up, it's almost similar in a way to some of the cannibal movies, because it's like they're so out of their element that they're consumed by the savage nature.
Exactly.
I'm making this sound like an NC-17 movie. It's not that gruesome, but
hey, there's self-cannibalism. This is a lot of fun, dude. I'm glad you picked this one.
oh yeah, and the reason I chose this movie was this is one I kind of came to late because I've always been a Godzilla fan, and I had heard about Matango for a while, and it was kind of like Doggerel. I was like, okay, it'll be like one of those lower rent monster movies like Varan, because when I first saw Varan, I was very disappointed by Varan because it was supposed to be a TV movie and it shows. So I kind of went into this not knowing what I was in for, and holy crap, was I on the edge of my seat the whole time watching it. It was very odd because it kind of put you in a lull. With the corny music at the beginning, it kind of gets you relaxed, and then it just throws the dread at you. But yeah, this is probably one of the earliest Japanese horror films, like proper, that I saw, and I loved every second about it. And it kind of made me rethink, oh well, maybe Japanese horror is for me. I need to watch more, you know?
Oh yeah, it is.
I kind of blame this for my re-interest in J-horror and Korean horror and maybe even Hong Kong horror.
Oh yes, it's all waiting for you.
It's ready to consume me like a mushroom person.
We're going to take a short musical break, and we're going to come back, and we have some Japanese horror talking to do.
Oh yeah, konnichiwa.
La 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 la.
I'm gonna go ahead and start the next part since Skype's gonna be a dick.
Yeah, let's get over with now.
I wish there was just more dick pics on Skype.
Oh no. I know
Anyway.
that was coming.
You said coming.
Oh. So, I asked Tyler to program the show. He's got a list of Japanese horror. Before you start your list, dude, let me give a shout out to a new podcast.
Oh,
it's
please
called Hero Ghost Show. And it is hosted by Bo. And he and various co-hosts are all doing Asian horror movies. And the first 3 episodes were, let's see, they talked about Audition. They talked about Versus.
And Tokyo Gore Police.
And Tokyo Gore Police, yes, thank you. And it's a cool show, and I'm trying to get on it by plugging them. Hey, can I be on the show? I've already
brag your way on.
I've already been harassing Bo. I'm sure he's like, well, you were going to be on the show until you annoyed the shit out of me.
Okay.
Anyway.
Let me on the show, Bo.
Yeah, hello. We're all getting in line. So,
damn it.
Let's hear some of your picks to talk about.
Yeah, well, before I go into the picks I have, I'm very vanilla when it comes to J-horror. It's not one of my strong suits. And I've actually seen a lot more of the older films than the newer, mainly because of where my hometown was. I didn't have a lot of options to rent them, so I just had to kind of blind buy stuff. Mostly good, some bad. The only I'll go ahead and say that when it comes to animal violence, I'm kind of a pansy. So there is one title on here that I picked because it is a good movie, but every time it gets to the animal violence, I check out mentally. So one day I'll love it. But of course, I'm talking about Suicide Club. Because there's a scene where a dog is put into a bag and stuff.
I am convinced that it's fake. See, I don't care about the fake animal violence. Like, if it's an effective scene, I'm not, excited about it or anything.
Yeah.
I can repress that hard on.
Yeah.
But just kidding. I can never repress a hard on. No. When it's really fake, like the one in Suicide Club where they obviously take something and then cut away for a second and then the violence happens and it's so obvious, or it's just a fake animal, that doesn't bother me because Italy and Spain
did it for real
for no freaking reason. And so it's just,
I I never thought that the Japanese would be more civilized than the Spanish.
Well, they hate whales. That's fine.
Moby Dick is not one of their favorite stories. Because they were disappointed it wasn't about what they thought it was.
There wasn't enough
Dun,
whale
dun, dun.
killing in it.
Whale murder. Apparently the movie Orca is popular in Japan.
And nowhere else.
Nowhere else. Hey, it's got Richard Harris, versus the whale.
God, that movie.
Yeah, I will say that, I understand that. I mean, I love Anchorman, and I don't get worried about Baxter being kicked off the bridge by Jack Black.
That's the best part of the movie.
Baxter! He took him, and he kicked him off the bridge!
I can't believe we just went into Anchorman.
Anyway, but I mean, Suicide Club is a good movie. I just have trouble rewatching it because I'm like, oh, the dog. Who knows? I'll buy the DVD or maybe a future Blu-ray and I'll just love it again.
I love that movie.
It's got a great cast. Some people from who's the cop from Audition who stars in it?
Oh, Tyler.
Oops.
Jeez.
Hey, you're more of an expert than I am.
Yeah, right. Didn't I already talk about not being an expert?
Well, you have a more wide range in Japanese horror, and you definitely own more than me.
It's Ryo Ishibashi.
Okay.
I remembered that without looking it up.
I really like him as an actor, and I think the movie has one of the most not mind-numbing, but it has one of the most, numbing endings where you're kind of just, you can't look away, and you're like, okay, this went weird.
Oh, very weird. That's one of the things that's like a make or break, as the ending of Suicide Club is so ambiguous.
Yeah. It's very ambiguous, but I will say that, it was kind of sold to me by, I had a friend in high school who was obsessed with Japanese horror, and he pretty much over the course of one weekend spent 2 full paychecks on Japanese horror DVDs.
Nice.
He was a wise man. I wasn't. But anyway, he bought about 30 Japanese horror DVDs.
Nice.
And some anime, which we'll get to some on my list later. But Suicide Club was one of the big ones, and he said, okay, you have to watch it because of the opening, where a whole group of teenage girls jump in front of a subway train. And, spoilers. And I was sold, but what got me about that was it sounds funny on paper, like it could be very exaggerated, like Machine Girl or Vampire Girl versus Frankenstein Girl, those kind of self-parody movies. The Neo Grindhouse movies, which some are good, some are bad. I love Tokyo Gore Police, but that's probably the best one of them. What struck me about Suicide Club was that opening is actually very disturbing. And then there's a scene where this group of high schoolers are on top of the roof of the building, and they're coaxing each other to be like, hey, let's join them. Let's commit suicide. And then they jump off and like, oh my God, what the hell?
That scene, if that doesn't affect you, there's something wrong with you. That scene is so scary.
I mean, the movie blew me away, and the scene where the mom's cooking dinner, she starts cutting her finger off. I mean, it's presented so matter-of-factly that it just kind of sucks you in. So I'll say, even though it's not my favorite J-horror movie, it's probably the one that will make you addicted to the genre, because the second movie on my list is Dark Water. Nice. And Dark Water was the movie that kind of gelled. I'm like, okay, J-horror is great. It's not just Reen movies. I mean, Dark Water is so depressing and so that's kind of a common theme we get with J-horror. And let me go ahead and ask you, I heard somewhere, I forget which critic it was, but they said that the Japanese deal with dread and guilt more than Americans. Do you believe that kind of feeds their kind of ideas of horror movies, where it's kind of guilt based?
That's a really good question. I don't actually have an answer. That kind of stumps me. Maybe I'd have to be Japanese to answer it. But in the movies, there's the theme of people being cruel to each other.
Yes.
And there's always, especially with Takashi Miike, it comes back in a lot of his films, especially, what was it? One Missed Call, where this cruelty towards a certain character starts the ball rolling for this curse that's killing everyone. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of bullying in the movies that leads to these kinds of horrific things. And I think that is a really interesting question, though. And
I think that's true, because it seems like, the way that a lot of Japanese horror movies work, and this isn't true about all of them, but for a lot of them, they're slow burns and they kind of creep up on you. There's not really a lot of jump scares, and it seems like the reason these people are getting murdered, it's not just because they were off in the woods having sex, which usually is a good reason. I love slasher movies, but it seems like the Japanese horror movies are a lot more personal, and it deals with regret and fear and, well, obviously fear, but guilt and regret kind of seems to kind of go in there. And people slowly losing their minds, mentally. Yeah. But yeah, Dark Water was another one that I saw the movie. I'd seen most of the Jennifer Connelly remake, and it was kind of okay, but the original movie just blew me away.
It's masterful cinema.
It's a gorgeous movie. Of course, I've seen a lot more of the older J-horror movies, like Onibaba and Kawaden.
Yeah.
I actually really do like Onibaba, even though it's kind of a slow burn, even by J-horror standards. I love how sweaty and nasty it is. Everyone in that movie is so sweaty, and they're just in this hut, all this repressed sexuality that's getting ready to just explode in your face. And that's not a euphemism. Have you seen Onibaba? I think I've asked you this.
I have seen Onibaba, and I think I got overhyped because of the Criterion releasing, and people were losing their minds when it came out on like a really nice copy of it. So when I finally got around to it, I don't know, it just didn't grab me. I know it's amazing. I'm a much bigger fan of Kwai-Dan.
Yeah, Kwai-Dan's a really good one. And I've only seen it once, that's why it's not on my list, but I love the imagery in that movie. And yet again, it's a revenge story. They deal with revenge in very interesting ways.
Oh, yeah.
So Onibaba was a big one. I love those demon masks that they have.
So good.
And what happens towards the end. But that movie I would recommend just because it is so sweaty and grueling. It's a very visceral movie. And then I'm not the biggest fan of anthology films, but there's also Kawaden, which is it 4 or 3 stories?
Oh, God, I can't remember. Might be 3.
That movie is great. And Criterion has recently released a longer cut of the movie, like the complete Japanese version.
Nice.
So I'm definitely looking forward to adding that to my collection. And I guess the last modern movie, or modern-ish movie I have on my list is Ju-On.
Yeah.
I really love the original Ju-On, and I was very surprised when I watched it again and realized that it doesn't take place in order.
No.
It's all over the place, and I was
shit.
fascinated by that movie.
That movie threw me for a loop, dude. I was so confused the first time.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, you were just here, and now you're not here, and, what is going on here? I mean, that movie kind of just threw me through a loop because I had no idea what was coming. The opening credits had me with that very disturbing murder sequence. And it's kind of funny in some parts. Like, that kid seems like he's trolling these people. He doesn't just want to kill them quickly. He just wants to, hey, I'm going to creep under the bed with you.
That little fucker.
That little bastard. I haven't seen the remake in a long time, so I don't know how it would feel. I mean, yeah, it's got, what's his face? Bill Pullman in the movie. I know it's got Bill Pullman, guy from Independence Day. I know he's in it. No speeches from him.
No. It's not bad. Like, as far as the remakes of J-horror go, it really isn't the worst. But it's like, all of the scary stuff is still scary, but they keep shooting themselves in the foot by beating you over the head.
Oh,
because something has to happen. Sarah Michelle Gellar has to see the reflection of the scary woman in the window of like the reflected in the window of the bus, and it's just this CGI face screaming at her, and it's like, what the hell was that? Just have her ride the goddamn bus. Fuck.
They're worried that we'll just check out because there's not an explosion or something.
God.
Actually, one I forgot to put on my list, but I'm glad that you were talking about the remakes because the remake of Pulse is horrible, but the original Pulse, holy God!
Do you know how far I got into the remake of Pulse?
How far?
The first death, I turned it off.
Really?
Before the credits started, I turned the movie off.
I don't blame you. I sat through more of it.
It sucks balls.
Yeah.
No, the original? Oh.
The original is great. I will always be creeped out by older computers because I know there's ghosts in them. I will trust my laptop to not have evil spirits in it.
You see red tape around that door, you walk on, son.
I will get the hell out of there. But yeah, the original Pulse is, it's a masterpiece. That was directed by a director with the last name of Kurosawa too, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's really good. Didn't he do Seance and
Yes.
Cure? Yeah.
Oh my God, yes, that guy.
Yes. And those were actually movies I discovered via when you did your J horror series. When you were doing your Asian horror blog posts.
Oh yeah.
For a while there, and actually one movie on my list that I actually discovered because of your enthusiasm of the series is actually Tomie.
Yeah.
Tomie, oh Lord, I had put that movie off for so long, and finally I was like, well, I should wait to get the sequels. And I'm like, oh no. So I found it at a pawn shop for $1.
Yes.
And I said, okay, this is time. So I bought it. It had some scratches on it, and holy God, I was not expecting that movie to be so good.
Yeah, Tomie is underrated. People need to pay attention to that one. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I think your blog, not to play the brown nosing to Richard game, but your blog, I think, is the only site that reviewed the movie. I haven't seen any other reviews for it.
Well, hey, they've made like 10 of them now, and people are getting burnt out on them. But it's like, out of all the ones I've seen, there's only one I dislike and one that I actually can't stand. And that's the shot on video, obviously shot on really bad video, Another Face.
Yeah.
All of the other ones, give them a shot. Just give them a watch. Replay is one of my favorite, in my top 10 films of all time. Replay is just so great.
Because I mean, you are kind of the champion of the Tomie movies. Because I just haven't seen anyone else really talk about them, and they are readily available, even Another Face. Sadly,
there's 2 I haven't seen yet. I'm excited. Tomie versus Tomie and Tomie Unlimited. I haven't seen either of those.
Okay, those are fairly new ones, right?
I think one of the guys from that new Japanese gore splatter scene, he directed Unlimited.
Okay.
It's somebody like the Machine Girl or Tokyo Gore Police or one of those guys. So it looks bonkers. Yeah,
it's shameless with how far it'll go. Because, I mean, I'm not sure how popular the series is in Japan. I mean, it must be popular for there to be so many sequels, but
it won't go away.
It's like Tomie. She'll never die. She'll keep regenerating.
Watch out for those moles.
Oh no. And I just love how poetic the ending is. But yeah, it's a very good series. It has a very eerie soundtrack. It's a movie I've watched a few times, and I do plan on revisiting or visiting all the other ones and, trying to marathon them, even if I lose my mind. But yeah, so Tomie was kind of the last newer movie on my list. When it comes to older films, Criterion, they have their Eclipse series. So they did one which was the when horror came from Shanjuku.
Yes.
And they actually have 2 movies on that set that I love.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not talking about X from Outer Space, which is pretty damn awesome. That movie is great. With that little that pop song, the Ichi Nidika.
That movie is too much for me to handle. I love it.
Are you familiar with the Tora-san movies?
No.
Okay, Tora-san was this I think it was 48 movie series, and they came out like 2 a year, and it was these comedy movies. And at the beginning of them, they would all have dream sequences. And one of them, the 24th film, actually, let me go up there and grab it. I have a copy of it. Here we go. Okay, I return. 34th movie is called Tora-san's Forbidden Love, which is not that explicit, I promise. And it actually starts out with stock footage of X from Outer Space with Gilala the monster. And Tora-san is playing this prophet/scientist/monk who has to stop Gilala. And he has this long speech about, humanity deserves to die because Gilala will kill you. And he fights stock footage of the monster because it's the same company.
Nice.
And it is so great. And it has a really goofy reference to Godzilla when they're making fun of the new Godzilla movie. So it's really neat. But yeah, I just bring that up because Gilala is a very popular monster for some reaon because it's a space chicken.
Yep.
It is. I mean, it
totally is. There's no way around it.
But in the set, they actually released a Gok, the Body Snatcher from Hell, which that movie,
so good.
If you want to talk about a great double feature, watch Matango and Gok, the Body Snatcher from Hell. That is perfect.
You cannot go wrong there. Even if you only like that movie and that set, it's worth buying that set for.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen Genocide yet, but I love The Living Skeleton.
Living Skeleton. When I was watching The Living Skeleton, I was like, where has this movie been all my life?
Oh yeah.
And I'm loving, I'm freaking out, I'm bouncing up and down the couch, I'm like losing my mind. And I look over at Lietta, who's watching it with me, and I'm like, is this not the greatest thing you've ever seen? And she's like, it's okay. And I'm like, I want a divorce. I was so like crestfallen that she wasn't loving it. And I think she likes it now. I wrote an article.
For the sake of your marriage, I hope so.
Yeah, we're still together. I wrote an article on it for Monster. Was it Monster? Or it might have been in Wang's Chop. I forget which one I wrote an article for. And I had her help me out by translating the poster.
Okay.
Because she studied some Japanese, and she translated what was on the poster. And man, the taglines for that are so cool. It's really super good.
It's great. And talk about atmosphere, black and white atmosphere. I'm obsessed with finding more of these movies. We need more releases of these 50s and 60s Japanese horror films because they've all been good.
They're out there. You can troll the download sites and the torrent sites, and you can find the stuff is out there, but it's just varying quality of downloads and all that shit. I mean, they need another box set, and I'm really hoping that people bought up that Criterion one and they'll put out some more because
Arrow, where are you? Knock on wood. Dude, Arrow, release some.
They're putting out great stuff. Japanese movies from the 60s and 70s that are they're killing it. I hope they continue.
Did you see where they're releasing the female Prisoner Scorpion movies on Blu-ray?
Yep. I am very excited about that.
I can't wait because
I'm a little worried though.
Oh, you're a little worried?
I've seen a few of those. I really worry about the rapey. Like, have I just not seen? Because they're always exploitative. I mean, super exploitative.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'm like really worried that there's going to be like the two I remember and the rest are just constant rape scenes. Like, oh no.
No, that's Sex and Fury.
Oh, yeah.
The only one I have is the fourth one, Grudge Song.
Yeah, I got that one.
And I got that one, and the other ones just happened to go out of print. I'm like, why am I cursed? But now they're coming back on Blu-ray, so yay. But yeah, they need to do a set of these horror movies. But yeah, a Coke Body Snatcher from Hell, I mean, that and Living Skeleton. They have so much atmosphere.
Genocide, I really didn't like.
Okay.
I kind of think it's a good movie, but it just did not capture my interest. I was kind of really happy when it was over.
Well, hey, one fluke out of 4 is not that bad.
Totally.
Those movies are just filled with dread, and I think that's kind of like I guess that's my preferred time period with Japanese movies would be the 50s to the early 90s. That's kind of like the golden period for me, because that's usually the kind of anime I like is 80s and 90s anime.
See, there's a lot to be said for the mid 2000s with Asian horror, beyond Japan. I mean, horror became so big because of The Ring and so big because of Ju-on and all this stuff that the market was flooded. And I know a lot of people got really sick of Asian horror really fast and long-haired ghosts really fast. But if you can sort through all that mid-2000s stuff, you can find things like Phone, One Missed Call, The Red Shoes. Naf and I are big fans of Sick Nurses from...
Yes, I've heard about the Sick Nurses. That's on my list.
If you get to the late 2000s with Asian horror, and that's when it's really hard to find good stuff, because by then people were releasing the shot on video, straight to video stuff.
Yeah, and you've covered a couple of those, like Doll from Hell,
and that, I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough because you see all this hope and promise of just a wave of horror come to a complete halt. And it's starting to come back now. I mean, slowly good stuff's coming out again.
Yeah. Well, you have the Ju-on versus Ryu movie.
I'm so down. I don't care if that's stupid. I want that. I'm so excited about that.
It'll be the Japanese Freddy versus Jason, a movie we've always wanted,
Oh my god. The characters that are kind of interchangeable anyway.
Yeah. Well, one's a little boy and one's a girl.
And then the other one's goes
It works. And that's such an easy sound effect to do to creep people out. Go on the phone, go.
Dude, it's like, why? Why didn't anyone think of that before? It's so scary.
Because Japanese know how to get under your skin.
Yeah, they do.
It's just, that's always been the area of filmmaking that I'm most interested in is the 50s to the 80s.
Yeah.
Which is really weird because that's also, once it hits the 70s, that's when the industry became bankrupt, and it's like, more sex, more rape. We got to keep people in seats, you know?
Arrow Video, I'm so sorry. I was reviewing that Outlaw Gangster VIP set, and man, it started to creep in. By 71, they were already having the frickin' rape in every movie. Or no, 70. It wasn't even 71. It was 1970.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this really fun series turned into grueling sex torture movies. And not even graphic, but it was so out of touch with the rest of the movies that I began to hate that set.
Yeah. At least Hanzo the Razor had a really good soundtrack.
Oh my God, Brad! That's Brad Hoag's favorite.
Yeah, I love the soundtrack.
I told him not to watch it. He's like, Hands of the Razor. I'm like, don't watch that. He's like, oh, we already started. I'm like, turn it off. And he's like, no, we'll hang with it. And he's like, I turned it off.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know, I actually like that trilogy, but maybe I'm demented. I don't know.
Dude, once he started, I'm like, okay, he's conditioning his penis by beating it with a stick. That's fine. But the fact that he's raping women to interrogate them, I'm like, I'm out. Good night.
And of course they start enjoying it too.
Oh God.
So, I mean, those are the big ones. Of course, the most wacky one, and you know, this shows that we do have hope for the world because Criterion released this bad boy. But 1977's Hausu or House.
Oh my God.
That yet again, I'm gonna blame you for this one because that was one I read about, and then
I'll take credit for it.
As soon as I was done reading the review, I looked up and I'm like, "Oh, look, it's being released by Criterion," and it was just magic. And I love that movie, unconditionally. And the image of the monster from the Criterion cover that's now became like a cool T-shirt cover. So it gives you hope that these obscure movies will, you know, enter in the mainstream, or that could be bad. I don't know. But
I was looking up Japanese horror films, and the image of the cat painting puking blood on the wall. I was like, "Where's this movie? Where's this movie?" And I kept finding copies without subtitles, and they were shitty copies. And then I think it was Independent Film Channel just played it in the middle of the night one night, back when they were still a good channel.
Yeah, before they gave up.
Yeah, before they started having infomercials. And I recorded it, and it exceeded my expectations. It's baffling and perfect in every way, and I love showing it to people who've never even seen a Japanese film. Like, I love dropping that on just totally unsuspecting people.
Not be prepared for that movie.
Criterion, man, you guys, I got your back now.
Yeah, you released Armageddon, and then you released House, so you're okay with me. I don't like Armageddon, but I love The Rock. They also did The Rock with Nicolas Cage and and I almost said Samuel L. Jackson. Sean Connery.
I just love Dwayne Johnson.
Oh my. You must love The Scorpion King.
We own it.
I actually like that. I like it better
we
than
have it.
Movie. Well, going back to the J-horror. So, I mean, yeah, Hausu. I mean, that's one that I don't really need to discuss it. If you haven't seen it, you need to. You owe yourself a chance to see this movie. And if it's not your cup of tea, well, that's okay. But any listeners out there who haven't seen it, you definitely need to track down House.
Damn right.
And don't get it confused with the 80s movie series. Those are good too.
Hey, House, the 86, I think it's 86. That's a fun movie.
Yeah.
Fuck that sequel.
Yeah, or the other sequels. There's House.
Oh, I know.
There's the one that's not really a House movie that's called House 3.
Yeah, House 4.
And then it was missing, and then you have House 4, and it's like, well, where's the third one? Oh, here it is.
No.
Yeah, that's a weird series. Just have a marathon with House in the title. You'll go crazy. House on Hill, Hausu, House. You know, Legend of Hell House. You know, that might actually be a good idea for a marathon.
That's a really good idea. Yeah. I like that.
I might try it and lose my
House with the laughing windows.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Throw some Jolly in there.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. And now moving on to the last couple movies on my list. Like I said, these are fairly mainstream Japanese movies. I still haven't got around to some of the more obscure ones, like, you know, Evil Dead Trap, and that's the one I've been wanting to see for a while.
That's very strange.
There's one called Wild Zero, I think, which has like a motorcycle gang.
Yeah, see, that movie, it's got some stuff in it that's amazing, like some like reveals that I won't spoil that I really respect. But I don't know. I never wanted to ever see it again.
Well, that's one I might check out just because it's like, oh, motorcycle gang. There's Stacy, right? The zombie one.
Yes.
Is that one good or?
It's fun. It's worth watching. I was kind of let down by the cheapness of it at the time, but this was a long time ago, back when I cared about stuff like that.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that I'll love it. So
okay,
I'm way overdue for a rewatch of Stacy.
I mean, I love the cover, but I just haven't got around to it. For some reason, I thought it was a Gene Roland movie because the cover looked like one of his movies. I'm probably the only one who's ever made that mistake, but
I like that though. It's a good mistake.
It looked like the Redemption DVD of Living Dead Girl. So I got them confused. I'm like, okay. And I started watching Living Dead Girl. I'm like, she's not Japanese. What is this? Oh, this is Stacy. But so yeah, those are some I haven't got to. One I actually have seen, but I'm not sure if I like it or not. Is Infection.
Oh yeah, talk about offbeat.
Yeah, that one's really interesting.
I like that movie. I don't love it, but I look forward to rewatching that one too.
That's one of the few J-horror movies I own, and it's in storage, so I might need to try to dig that out and watch it again.
You should.
But the last three I have on my list is, and I really had to think of Japanese horror-related movies I've seen that weren't kaiju-related. But I actually have 3 anime titles here. I have Wicked City.
Yes.
Demon City Shinjuku, which I really liked.
Nice.
And of course, hands down, one of my favorite movies of all time, and I will cherish the Urban Vision DVD forever, Vampire Hunter D.
Oh my god, yes.
Yes. Those are all great titles.
Totally.
I was gonna troll and put Overfiend on there, but no, I'm not going to. Screw that movie.
Nice.
They clearly wanted to screw the audience. And out of them, I think probably the most rapey of these 3 is probably Wicked City, but I still love that movie.
Yeah, it has that element to it. I saw that in a theater in like 96 or something with a
lucky bastard.
Dude, unsuspecting crowd. This crowd, we had no idea we're getting into. Then the tentacles start coming out. Now, as far as tentacle rape movies go, it's like G-rated compared to the other ones.
Oh,
like,
thank God.
Like Overfiend.
Yeah.
But it was so funny just walking out of a completely silent theater with a bunch of people like, what just happened?
Yeah, they were expecting Kimba the White Lion or something. And they got that.
Have you seen the Hong Kong version?
I have not.
The live action? Oh, dude.
I wanted to get that one. I might have to.
Shit on a brick. That is less rapey, more just nuts. Like, it is so weird. I don't think they understood the story at all when they made that. It's perfect. I highly recommend that one.
Oh yeah, that's one I'll definitely have to find. It's some man means somehow. Out of those 3, those are all, kind of those, that's the kind of anime I really enjoy, is that mid-80s creative boom where anime kind of took over the film industry for a while before it kind of got creatively bankrupt. Because my stance on anime nowadays is it seems like they're more interested in just doing the series instead of trying to do unique movies like Perfect Blue.
Oh man, I was gonna mention that. Yeah,
that was one. I'm looking at my list like, man, I'm an idiot. I didn't put Perfect Blue on there.
No, that's fine. That's so good.
Perfect Blue. I mean, the description on it that Roger Corman, why they interviewed him of all people got me, but it says Alfred Hitchcock in the way of Walt Disney. I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that.
What? Sure.
I'm like, thank you, Roger Corman.
No, somebody described that as a Japanese giallo, and I was like, dude.
It really is.
That's going in the book.
There you go. You need to do the animated giallos chapter.
It'll be a short chapter.
Short chapter. Because it seems to me like I've seen a lot more horror anime, but they're usually series. Like, I think, would you consider like Elfen Lied to be a horror-related show or not?
Yeah,
really?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's so gory, and
I mean, the first episode has a levitating topless woman making people's brains explode.
I'm telling you, dude, that's
scanners.
That wasn't like. I think I enjoyed that more watching it, and then later I was kind of, I don't know if I ever want to see it again, but
Yeah.
it's worth a look. It's really worth a look.
Vampire Princess Miyu is really solid.
Oh yeah.
But yet again, that's a series. So I mean, that's the thing about Japan. Like compared to Hong Kong, they're just as prolific, but they seem to be doing more TV shows or OVAs or
you
really
have to dig. You really have to dig. I was just going through I was looking for some mecha. I needed a mecha fix, and my mecha, what I like from that genre is so small.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 79 through 83.
Mm-hmm. Do you like the first three Gundam shows?
I definitely like the first one. I'm not real familiar with them, but once they get to the mid-80s, I feel like that whole series just lost it. Yeah.
Hold on, before we get in the nerd jeep and get lost in Nerd County on a frickin' anime tirade, because I'm already getting excited, let me come back on your show.
Okay.
And you and I will do an episode where we just talk about anime.
Totally. I will do that.
We're going long now.
We're going long. That's kind of the hardest thing for me with summing up Japanese horror. I try to be diverse with it. I mean, I try to go for the older stuff. But unfortunately, a lot of it just isn't available unless you're really good at digging in torrent sites.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot of stuff out there. I mean, there's a lot I need to explore. There's the Bloodthirsty trilogy that Toho did. Toei
I've got those, yeah.
The
They're
Hammer.
they're trying to rip off Hammer. I love it.
Yeah, like that'd be a series that I think I'll love, but I just need to get to them,
Have you seen, speaking of your favorite era, have you seen Kuroniko?
Oh, the Hell movie?
No, that's,
Jiguku.
Kuroniko is the Cursed Cat movie. That one's also Criterion.
Yeah, I saw most of it, but I've only seen it once. That's why I didn't make my list.
Yeah, give it another spin. That's one of my favorites. That was like, woo, so
next
good.
Criterion sell. That's going on my shopping list. It just seems like that's just one thing I've always noticed is, not to be on too big of a tangent, but it just seems like Hong Kong is so prolific that when you go to Japan, it seems like, man, there's a lot of TV shows, but not enough movies.
No, I agree.
It's really odd. But I think, Wicked City's one where it has this kind of noir vibe. It has this really cool 80s fashion. It's got a lot of shadows and deep colors. Demon City Shinjuku is really apocalyptic and solid. I love that. And of course, Vampire D is just, imagine if we made Captain Kronos and kind of knew what we were doing a little bit better. I know that sounds negative because I do love Captain Kronos, but it seems like they took the idea and kind of did it better.
The thing with Vampire Hunter D is when you had very little anime to rent, that was the best title.
Oh, yes.
Like, I bought that, I spent $35 in 1990s money on that tape, and it was the best experience ever. I have that old English dub memorized.
Running away never solves anything.
Yes, but Dee, if we stay here, you could be... Oh, Dee, if anything were to happen to you...
Doris...
Dee, don't you understand? Please, just let me hold you for a while.
I haven't seen the sequel in forever, but I remember it being okay.
Totally different animation style.
It's too glossy. It's too pretty.
Soulless, totally.
Yeah, it's too generic. But that's really my list of J-horror. As you can tell, it's very basic. It doesn't really dive into it. But I do enjoy the genre, and I am exploring more.
Oh, totally, man. No, it's a great list because there's a lot of people who do not watch Asian horror at all, and that's a great jumping off list right there. So,
well, thank you. And and these are all ones that are personal favorites. Like I said, I think the oddball one out is I like Onibaba more than Suicide Club, which is really weird, but
it makes sense, and that's the opposite of how I feel. But
yeah, we can agree to disagree. And I haven't seen Ryu in so long, so that's why Ryu's not on here. My collection's just very slim.
Ringu?
Oh, Ringu, yeah.
No, it's all right. I was wondering if you're talking about a different movie. I love those. I love those movies. Even the shitty sequel. One of the sequels is kind of blah, but I love them. I
really want to see the Rain Virus, which is the Korean version of it.
Dude, that's weird. That is a weird movie.
I mean, if it's anything, Korea is a very depressing movie country. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, big time.
The Host, it's like, oh, it's so depressing. But yeah, that's my J-horror list.
Awesome. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for being on the show, dude.
Oh, yeah, no problem. And I'll definitely have to have you over for anime obsession time, you know?
Oh, dude, it will be a 5-6-parter, because
totally.
I've been obsessed with anime since 1990, so I got you covered.
Yeah.
Folks, go over and listen to Apologize to the Podcast. I will post links. Tyler will be back. We've already got the next movie picked, so we won't spoil it here.
It'll definitely be interesting. And
it won't be Japanese, I can tell you that much.
Yes, we're going to jump to another country, and it's not going to be Taiwan, I promise.
Oh, man.
Oh, spoiler! I think I've convinced Richard for maybe a Vampire Hunter D episode in the future, so we'll see how that goes.
Totally. No, I'll just perform the whole fucking movie.
Yes. Richard Smith narrates Vampire Hunter D. Get your Earl Grey tea ready.
He's a damn peel. His mother was a human, and his... Okay, I don't remember it that well. Damn it. I shouldn't have tried. Good night, folks.
Thanks for having me on, Richard.
Hell yeah! Now we make silly sounds, because it's over.
Hello, This is the Doomed Show is available at hellodoomshow.podomatic.com. For the old episodes, check out the archives at doomedmoviethon.com. To contact the show, email us at doomedmoviethon@gmail.com or at doomedmoviethon on Twitter. For more Doomed Moviethon goodness, also visit cinemasomnambulist.com.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
doll popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was.
How could you watch this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Well, hello, my dear friends. I am Baron Martino, and when I am not in Italy murdering beautiful fashion models, I enjoy hosting a little show called The Giallo Room. Giallo is basically the Italian word for yellow that often referred to cheap mystery novels with yellow covers published by Mondadori in the early 1900s. However, it later became the namesake of a notorious genre of films that peaked in the early 70s after Mario Bava, Dario Argento, Lucio Fulci, Sergio Martino, and many other talented Italian filmmakers introduced audiences to a new style of film that incorporated ornate cinematography, a pulsating soundtrack, beautiful female victims, and a black love killer, all together with a thrilling twist ending. Join me, won't you, as I share my unhealthy obsession of Giallo with you all in The Giallo Room. You can find The Giallo Room at youtube.com/c/The Giallo Room Show and facebook.com/The Giallo Room, as well as your closest participating adult film store. As always, my friends, grazie.